Welcome to Scientific Death.
In October 1989, a plastics manufacturing plant in Pasadena, Texas, was running a high-capacity polyethylene reactor. Inside was a volatile mixture of ethylene gas and an isobutane solvent. This animated cross-section shows the internal environment of the vessel. The reactor operated under a working pressure of 600 pounds per square inch and maintained a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius. Technicians were performing a routine maintenance task to clear a blockage in a lower settling leg. To do this, a specialized DEMCO ball valve had been unbolted from the reactor wall. But during the procedure, the pneumatic actuator air lines were accidentally cross-connected. Because the lines were swapped, actuating the pneumatic system locked the valve in the wide-open position while the reactor remained fully pressurized. Without the valve holding the pressure back, over 85,000 pounds of superheated ethylene and solvent began pouring out of the open port. A single crossed air line stripped away the mechanical safeguards holding the reactor's contents in check, initiating a 90-second countdown where Thermodynamics took control of the facility. The physics of the disaster began with superheated flash volatilization, which prevented the leaking liquid from simply pooling on the ground. This model illustrates the phase change. Held far above its boiling point, the sudden drop to 1 atmosphere caused the pressurized liquid to flash into gas. The fluid grew 300 times in volume, creating a high-velocity aerosol jet that hugged the ground. Ethylene poses a specific threat because of its reactive carbon-carbon double bond. This gives the gas a wide flammability range between 2.7 and 36% in air and a high fundamental burning velocity. The expanding vapor cloud rolled outward until it reached a nearby process heater. That heat source provided the ignition point. This rapid phase change meant the ignition source met a massive pre-mixed cloud of fuel and air that had already blanketed the facility. As the vapor cloud ignited, the explosion entered a phase known as the Deflagration-to-Detonation transition, or DDT. This photograph shows the architecture of the plant's processing loop. These dense structural steel pipes acted as turbulent obstacles for the expanding fire. This simulation illustrates the reaction. As the fire crashed through these obstacles, the turbulence caused the flame front to accelerate out of control, transitioning from a subsonic fire into a supersonic detonation wave. The detonation released energy equivalent to 15 tons of TNT, generating a shockwave exceeding 20 pounds per square inch. Personnel caught in the path of the supersonic wave were subjected to primary blast barotrauma. The differential pressure instantly collapsed chest cavities and ruptured pulmonary capillary beds. Radiant flash pyrolysis followed the pressure wave. The 1,800-degree fireballs swept the grounds in seconds, causing full-thickness thermal denaturation of tissue and vaporizing biological moisture. The combination of reactive chemistry and dense plant architecture engineered a force that made human survival within the processing loop impossible. This aerial photograph captures the physical destruction. The kinetic blast wave collapsed reinforced concrete buildings and shredded heavy steel pipe racks. Looking at this vintage operating room, it's clear why the staff were so vulnerable. Unreinforced walls and buildings offered no protection against the supersonic overpressure. The Pasadena disaster directly led to the establishment of the OSHA Process Safety Management Standard, legally mandating that facilities conduct rigorous hazard analyses and follow strict written protocols for hazardous chemicals. To address the initial mechanical failure, industrial codes were updated to require fail-safe mechanical interlocks. Valves can no longer physically open unless positive blind flanges are bolted in place, preventing pneumatic errors from venting a reactor. Finally, the API RP752 mandate was created. Control rooms and administrative buildings must now be blast-resistant concrete structures located far from processing units. The industry updated these engineering standards to ensure that a single pneumatic error can no longer escalate into a supersonic detonation.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a giant thumbs up and hit that big subscribe button. Be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. See you in the next one.